If I become number one, will you do it with me? Possibly one of my all-time favorite lines in the original No More Heroes. Like Travis uttering that line to Sylvia Crystal. Like forever cementing like what kind of person he is, what the adventure is about, what the situation is, and sort of making it very very clear that No More Heroes is actually something very very special. Like not only in the world of video games where saving a princess is the norm, but media in general. Like so many people seem to like overlook the fact that the reason the reason that men want to rescue women and why women want to be rescued by men is sexual. Like the people downplay the fact that the inherent nature of this, like the reason it happens, like the reason it's become such a trope, is such a cliche, is that the woman would reward her savior with sex. And that's kind of the topic that No More Heroes is kind of tackling. Like when you look at it from that perspective, Mario and Princess Peach are not that different from Travis and Sylvia Crystal. Like Sylvia Crystal is just Sylvia and Travis are just a lot more upfront about it. Like Travis straight up, like no bullshitting around, no more like no will they or won't they. Like he straight up says, if I become number one, will you do it with me? That kind of establishes, like it's an insanely bold forward thing for him to say. It's simultaneously like really really beta, really really pathetic, right? In the sense that like the greatest thing, like Travis can literally have like anything he wants from this organization, and he chooses to have sex with this girl, and like somehow really really alpha, in which he comes out and says what he wants. Like Travis is kind of weird that way, and that he's supposed to be a loser, and in a lot of ways he is, right? Because of the jobs he works, where he lives, things he does, and stuff, the things he enjoys, and stuff like that, while simultaneously like relishing those things, like simultaneously just devouring them, and like really enjoying every minute of it. Like people call him a loser, he doesn't give a fuck. Like Travis just will fuck you up anyway. Like Travis, it's an interesting sort of contrast, right? Like between like the sort of beta and alpha aspects of his personality. Like he craves intimacy, he craves sex, like he craves sexual desires, and he'll aggressively go out and get it. But at the same time, like he doesn't actually believe that he's ever going to make it with a woman, as like that exposition with before the first boss fight kind of emphasizes that. Like he starts fantasizing about what his life is going to be like when he becomes number one, when he finally kills all the assassins and beats the game, essentially. Like, I'm going to have a team of hot yoga instructors knocking on my door at every 2 hours. Like, I'll have nutritionists counting every calorie. Like, I'll be in paradise, but there's nothing here for me. Like, I have to do something before I bail. But what? Like, you see this. Like, you see this sort of facade sort of like crumble, like in this single line of dialogue in which like Travis is extremely, extremely confident in what he's doing, seemingly very confident in what he's doing, how he's expressing himself, like what he enjoys. But really, at its core, he's very, very insecure about the reality of this. Like, he doesn't actually think any of this is obtainable. And even if it was, he probably wouldn't find any value in it. Like, he kind of already knows at this stage that at the end of the day, he's going to be just like death metal. Like, someone who is completely bitter and disillusioned with life in spite of their personal successes. So like No More Heroes at its core is sort of like This was supposed to be about Sylvia Crystal, but like I think I got completely off track here. There was so much. There's so much to unpack here. Obviously, like this is something I could talk about all day, right? Like I've done like hour-long podcasts talking about like the themes and ideas behind No More Heroes. Besides like behind like Travis's motivations and sexuality and characterization and like how he interacts with people around him. So like how does Sylvia fit to this? Well, Sylvia Crystal is probably one of my all-time favorite female video game characters because like she comes off as a subversion to the damsel in distress, right? Like I've already talked at length about how she how the game makes no illusions about what this is all about. Like Travis just wants to smash this chick. So but Sylvia, oddly enough, unlike most female video game protagonists, characters of this nature, is not a damsel in distress. Rather, she's actually a manipulative cunt who essentially controls everything. Like, she is, in a lot of ways, kind of an antagonist, like, in a weird kind of way. Like, the weird way she's belittles Travis, bullies him, sort of puts him in these situations, sort of pits these assassins against each other. Like, she's a weird mix between a straight-up antagonist and a love interest. Like, she's not really either. And that kind of like suits the game's nature very, very well, in which like probably the woman you hate the most is the one you want to bang. Like it's kind of they have a really dysfunctional relationship, and it's kind of weird that they ended up together seemingly at the end of No More Heroes 2 and presumably 3 if like the trailers or anything to go by. They did marry in Travis Strikes Again apparently and have 2 kids together apparently, but we're gonna have to like get more elaboration on that. Man, I keep forgetting like some critical key plot details because there's so much to talk about. So they do get married eventually, and even now have a really terrible relationship. But like here, where they're just sort of going back and forth with this crazy shit, like Sylvia, going from hot to cold to just being an all-around tsundere bitch a lot of the time, like leading him on, teasing, like completely in control of the situation at all times, and like promising him that if he ever does become number one, when he becomes number one, she is going to fulfill her end of the bargain. She is going to let him do her, and that never actually happens in No More Heroes 1. It was all an elaborate ruse, which is all something I need to get into in another video, maybe a continuity video, because that's something that's been bothering me in recent playthroughs. The organization was fake all along thing. Like that doesn't really jive with what we see in future installments. But Sylvia is a complete bitch. Like as opposed to someone like Princess Peach, who is legitimately portrayed as being really kind and really cares a lot about Mario. Travis and Sylvia have this extremely broken relationship, like built on this. Not even a relationship. That's like they have like a transaction. Like if you do this, I'm going to do this. It's not like a romantic relationship. It's like a business deal. Like they're legitimately doing these ridiculous things. They're going to ridiculous lengths to do this thing. They're clearly not really in love with each other, right? And they end up together anyway. It's it's surprisingly realistic in this sense, where it portrays these two as getting married and having a life together, despite the fact that they clearly are not in love. You know what I mean? It's kind of worthless in that, kind of pathetic in that way, but kind of engaging and interesting too. Like I said, like No More Heroes has a lot of depth to it. Like this is a relationship that's worth understanding, looking into, and appreciating, because like we know a lot about these characters that just make you just wonder what the fuck is going on behind the scenes. Like you don't know exactly what's going on with Sylvia. You don't know what the deal is with like her marriage to Henry, or how it ended, or how Travis fucked her instead, or like even if like the kids are even his, because that's kind of like up for debate at the moment. Like, are both the kids his, or like one of them Henry's? Like, what's the deal with that? But that's going into like deepest lore territory. We have no idea at this point. Like, maybe No More Heroes 3 will get into this, but until then we really have no idea. So this the relationship between Travis and Sylvia, or rather Travis's pursuit of like a sexual encounter, is allegedly what drives the plot. Like, this is the reason the game tells us early on that Travis is going out like killing all these people to like have sex. Like that is literally the only reason he's doing it. Like, it's shallow as fuck, but because of that, like it's incredibly fun to watch. Like, you get this mounting feeling of dread as you're going through these rankings. Like, you just know things aren't going to work out. You just know things are going to fall apart. Like, you just know you want to see the next boss. You want to get through these levels. You want to like get the money to get to the next boss. Like, you want to do all this stuff to see like what happens at the end. You want to see where this goes, and the payoff is pretty good in a way that you may not expect. You don't really get any clear answers about any of this shit, but you do eventually you get some sort of closure, like a really weird, bizarre, like Suda-ish kind of ending. But we'll have to talk about the ending probably another time. But like, as a whole, it like closes out the game very well. It like teases a sequel that probably wasn't planned when the game finished development, and that's it. That's No More Heroes. It ends on a cliffhanger basically, and it doesn't really resolve anything. And that's kind of the point, is that like nothing is ever really resolved. Like, Travis never really found what he was looking for, and that's kind of I think the underlying theme of the entire series, is that like there's no real purpose in this kind of bullshit. Like, you just sort of have to like find your path, like find your true path, you could say, if you're a fan of the series. I'll have to finish the game again before I like go into more detail about this. Like, I really just wanted to talk about like that initial interaction between Travis and Sylvia, like the reveal. I should say, like, will you do it with me? Like, top 10 gaming lines for sure. Like, one of the all-time greats. The game is fantastic, 10 out of 10. Highly recommend it. Please check it out on Nintendo Switch. And please stay tuned for future No More Heroes videos. Thank you.